Hello YouTube, Robin Pumpkinhead here, and welcome to part 1 of our Halloween special subway build. Now there's going to be 4 parts to this Halloween special, which will be Monday, Friday building up to the eve of Halloween day itself. And what we're going to be doing is kind of a regular build in many respects, that we're going to be building the second subway station for the subway network of Brick Nottingham, and also a new subway train to run on that system, and incorporate that with everything that we've got already. It's just going to have a bit of a ghostly theme as well, hence my costume. And also these guys who are going to be helping me, these are my haunted subway construction crew. And we've got this guy who's got 2 heads, so he must have had a split personality in real life, I suppose. I'm going to call him Billy Bob. That's Billy, and there's Bob. So that's a fun one. And the other guy we'll call, I don't know, Jim. And he's got wings, even though he probably didn't in real life. And it looks like maybe he got cut in 2 in some horrible incident. Right, so they are the protagonists. So we better get on with what the plans are for our build. I'm going to turn off my UV light. There we go. Right, so my plan for this whole subway network, part 2, is to utilise that space that we've got in the second standing hole of Brick Nottingham. So in many respects, it'll be quite similar to the first full subway station that we've got. That's in the first standing hole. Now, I don't want to make them identical because obviously I like a bit of variety as one of the rules of the development of Brick Nottingham, but also because, well, it's a bit of a lost opportunity to do something different. So that's where the idea of having kind of a haunted theme came from. And it's also a product of all the wonderful Hidden Side sets that have been coming up recently, and all these lovely ghost pieces, and I had absolutely nowhere to use them. I was thinking about a ride on my fairground that would use them all as well, sort of a haunted, roller coaster or haunted house or something like that. But this, I think, is a better plan. I can also use the sort of idea of using the Stranger Thingsy type vibe that's come through in Lego in the last sort of year, and add some sort of muted colours and a bit of a sort of spooky theme to the whole setup of the subway station, just to make it a contrast to the other one. So the other one, layout wise, has quite a wide platform right at the front, which is about 10 or 12 studs wide, so it can incorporate 2 escalators and so on. Then it's got a single track, and then it's got the kind of back wall at the back. So I do want them to be similar, the 2 stations, so that they do look like part of the same network, but I am going to try and make them very different at the same time. So this one I'm going to do in a completely different format. I am still going to have the back wall. We kind of need that, otherwise we're going to be able to see all the drinks cans that are supporting my tables apart. But I'm going to have 2 tracks, so I can have 2 trains running simultaneously, because there's really no point having 2 trains if I can only run them one at a time. So I'm going to have a track right up against that wall. Then I'm going to have a central platform this time. And because of the space available, it's actually going to have to be quite narrow, probably only about 6 or 8 studs deep. And then I'm going to have the second track, and then I'm going to have a really thin platform. And I guess that will kind of be a facade of a platform, even though it'll be on the near side, in the fact that maybe that platform is a lot deeper in our imagination. It's kind of been chopped off by the standing hole, so we've only got the sort of first sliver of it. So we're going to have platform, track, wall, in order to fit everything in. Now that is going to be a tight squeeze, I think, a really tight squeeze. Now what's also going to be a really tight squeeze is the fact that we've got a loop of track underneath all that table at the moment that goes through both stations and then kind of back round. So there's a corner underneath the main table layer on the lower table layer. And then there's sort of 2 stations on the front edge, which are our 2 linked stations. So you see the train whizzing through one, vanish again, and then whiz through the other before going back round for a full loop. Now that's absolutely on the tightest circle that you can do. It's even tighter than using normal track with the 8 sort of curved pieces, in that I've used flex track for the corners just to squeeze it down just another 4 studs. So the fact that that's there already, and I want to get another train track in the middle of that makes it, well, impossible, literally. I mean, there's no way we can get a loop of track that's small enough unless we went for a really narrow gauge, but I think that would look rubbish. So I've got to think outside the box and think of something different. So I want to use a system of making a train actually go along an open-ended piece of track and actually go along it, alternating between its two ends. Now that is going to be a bit technological, a bit difficult to do, so I'm going to have to really think outside the box of how to do that. But the good thing about, kind of like our monorail system with a tram on it, by not having the two corners in and it just pinging along a single piece of track, obviously we can fit that in a lot more easily. So let me introduce you to the solution that I've come up with. And do bear with me. So I'm certain there's some sort of combination of power functions pieces with switches and all sorts of things like that that you could use to actually run a train. It hits something that would physically move a switch into a different position and reverse its polarity and thus set it back off in the opposite direction and do it that way. I'm sure that probably would work, but I thought I'd use something even more interesting and different. And that, may I introduce to you, is the Duplo push and go motor, which is part 28743. Now, do bear with me, do stay with me on this. Yeah, this is a Duplo motor, but it's really quite interesting and clever. It's part of 3 Duplo sets, the main one being the steam train 10874. But it's got some pretty clever kit in it that I want to share with you. So first of all, it's got this sort of light thing on the bottom next to the power switch, and that actually looks at the track below for all sorts of color-coded pieces that give it instructions. It can also be run full-blown from an app as well, so it just means that there are lots of possibilities for using this base to do some pretty clever things with. So now you're starting to get on board. Now the downside is it is Duplo, which means it uses these really large studs, and it's also quite thick because of all that electronic kit, and it's got a very sort of huge unsightly tow bar piece on the back as well. But on that second track, I think it's going to be relatively dark, so hopefully you won't notice that too much. The fact that this is a bit raised, well, just makes it a bit more prominent, I suppose. And the fact that it uses these big studs, well, they do interlock with normal Lego bricks. A 2x4 will fit over 2 of them, or a 2x2 over 1 of them, so it's literally a 1:2 type scale. So I can build onto here. It just means the base layer will have to be a solid brick layer first of all. So allow me to show you all the functionality of this motor. Right, so the first stage of my demo is to show you just very briefly the app, which is a dedicated Duplo app, which is a bit sort of kiddified, obviously, but it does work very well, actually. It's kind of like the powered up app, but different. We can change the light color on the front bar there. You can see me cycling through different colors. You can toot the horn. You can fill up with water, which makes this noise. Yeah. And you can also obviously drive it, and there's loads of different speeds, both directions. You can go quite quickly, and you can screech to a halt. So that is really quite good fun. So yeah, might play with that for a bit. So that is one way of controlling it, but I don't want to have to use the app every time I want this second train to run. And that's complicated by I'm having to use a different device from the one that I'm currently filming on, because I can't film on it and use the app on my phone at the same time. So yeah, it does have its limitations for me. So what I'm going to try and use is the second set of functionality that this train provides. So let's get on to that. Now, in order to get this motor, you do have to buy one of those 3 Duplo sets, and you get, well, a load of unusable Duplo with it, unfortunately. But what you can do is try and buy it separately on Bricklink, which is what I did. There aren't very many available at all. And I had to go to mainland Europe, to somewhere like Slovakia or something like that, to get this one. But it's arrived and it's working fine, so that's great. And the second way of utilizing it is using other pieces that come in those sets, which are action bricks. And they basically are pieces that are different colors that lie on the physical pieces of Duplo track, of which I've also bought a few pieces to play around with. And they basically give that light on the bottom the instructions that the app was providing in our earlier example. So this is how I think that I'm going to be controlling this train. So, for example, red. I don't have the actual Duplo pieces. I've just made little setups out of coloured tiles just to do the same job. So red is the instruction to stop. So if I lay that in the track and get this guy going along, then I hope, yep, it does that sort of skid stop noise as it comes to a halt. So I can control it that way. Brilliant. Okay, so that's red. That's how red works. What else we got? We've got blue. Now, blue was that filling up with water noise, which may sound like it evacuating instead, but nonetheless. And I think it will stop, pause, do the water thing, and then keep going. So let's try that one. Yeah, so stop, refill, and off it goes. So there's another good code brick. Now, yellow, I think, is supposed to be tooting the horn, if I'm right. Or maybe it's the lights, I can't remember now. And for some reason, it just doesn't like seeing yellow. Let's try it again. No, it's doing absolutely nothing there. So, parp on that one. White. Now that's lights, I think. Yeah, and there's a little beep there, and the light did come on. It's gone off now, but nonetheless, so that works, but is largely useless, so I'm not going to use that. And then the last one is green, and I think green is going to be the most useful for us because it's reverse direction. So I'm going to put that there, so it should ping along, see the green, and change direction. Let's try it. Ooh, and it does a sort of skid stop, and then it does kind of a beep horn to take off again. So, okay. So nice and noisy. So I think that's the one I'm going to use. And if I have a pair of them, so one sort of here and one, say, right at the other end of our underground platform, then basically it should ping between the two. And that sort of screech noise, followed by the horn, the sort of parping noise, they're both horrible electronic noises, but I figure that'll kind of be like the screams and horrible noises that a haunted subway train would make. So it kind of fits in with my theme even more, if you ask me, the horrible noise being not a problem, but a feature. So I'm going to get rid of the other colours and make a second green paddle type thing, so I can actually have it set up in between 2 points and pinging between them, and let's see how annoying and noisy that is. Here is my test rig. I've got one set of green tiles over that end, another set of green tiles at this end, and I'm hoping that that distance isn't too short for it to be able to register both and ping between the two, because ideally, what I want is my haunted train that is in the subway station to be kind of pinging always within the station from one wall to the other one, like it's kind of a angry caged animal or something like that. So that's what I'm going to try and do. So let's turn it on and give that a test. Okay. Oh, and it saw the other one. Come on. Yeah, it's working. Brilliant. Cool. So we can have our... I'm going to stop that. So we can have our lovely angry ghost train caged within our station. Brilliant. So that brings us to the next problem we've got to solve, which is this track, which is kind of wobbly. I mean, you can see these joints are not very firm at all. And because it's the Duplo system, well, it probably can fit to normal Lego pieces, maybe not here, but maybe here. But I really don't want to use it because it's quite ugly and it's going to be quite difficult to disguise. And I really don't want this whole setup made much taller because this base is already really a bit too tall. So what I'm going to try and do, because all it is really is some flat bits with a bit of a lip on the inside to keep the train on track, is make a kind of brick built version of this track, which might even be a bit more shallow. And I think for that I can use normal system Lego panel pieces just on some plates. So that is what I'm going to try next. And then I'll put the tiles directly onto those plates as well, and see if we can recreate what we just did there. So now I'm the proud owner of 6 pieces of Duplo track that I can't use in any way because I'm putting that to one side, and I'm bringing in this new test rig. Excuse the multicoloured pieces, I just grabbed what came to hand. It's using the panel pieces, as I said, so we've got panel pieces facing that way on the top, towards the top of the screen there, and because of the spacing it's the same on the bottom, the same direction, and that means I need a row of tiles here for the second set of wheels. So they're going to run on the outside of that bar and on the sort of, well, outside of that one as well, but actually on the panel piece there. And there's one set of my green tiles, there's the other set of my green tiles, and this whole setup is roughly the length of the space that we've got available in the Lego room. So this is where it has to work. Now look, they're even closer together, so will it work? Really important. And will it be happy running on these pieces? So it's on, so let's just set it going. Now that is a horrible noise it's making. I'm not sure if the microphone that I'm talking into is picking it up and doing it justice, but it's already starting to annoy me. So that makes it really appropriate, if you ask me. It should be a horrible noise that a haunted train is making. And it kind of sounds like it's screaming and wailing. Oh, I might have to stop that. You can just stop it by tipping it like that, because I suppose it's a child safety feature. But the great news is that works. The bad news is that it's very noisy. So great. So we've got a system, Lego system rather than Lego Duplo way of making this thing run. So we'll build the actual ghost train in another video, but what we should do is probably take this, well, maybe both bits, up to the Lego room and kind of try this whole setup in situ and see what space we've got available for what platform. So just a quick recap of my first subway station. This had the wide platform on the near side, just so we could have lots of interesting scenes and those double escalators and so on. Then we had a single track, and then these very brightly tiled walls behind there with the cinema posters on and all the rest of it. So it looks like a really good complete scene. Now I really don't want to go back and do this and add a second track to here, and arguably I want to keep the haunted train just to the haunted station, so I don't think I will in the second part of the Lego room either. So this is kind of what we're trying to replicate, but a much spookier version. So let's get the train on. I've already hardwired lighted that on, so it's ready to go, and then I can get the power functions turned on to get that going around. So that will obviously then shoot off underneath all of the track, and then we'll see it appear on the same track line in the second standing hole. So that we have to keep intact. Fantastic. So basically it goes all the way around here, kind of in a loop underneath the station, all the way along there, underneath the airport, round another corner, and there we go, back again. So it's important that whatever we do today, whoop, nearly missed it, does not disrupt that functionality. So I'm going to stop this guy when he gets into that space, because I'm using power functions still, And the reason why I do that is because I use the Power Functions rechargeable batteries that unfortunately you can't get anymore. And they're just very, well, economical. So I don't have to keep buying batteries and things. And also, they last a really long time. So they're so much better than the more power hungry powered up for me. So I don't mind the infrared only thing. It makes it a lot easier to control while I'm filming as well, because I can't use an app. Right, let's go to the second standing hole. Right, so here we are in the second standing hole with the Haunted Subway crew, Billy, Bob and Jim. And you can see that track a bit closer up now. And before the edge of the table, we've got quite a good amount of space. Then we've got the existing track. And then we haven't got a great amount of space if I lay that template that we were using earlier down before we start getting, well, it's not the cans because I can push them back, but before we get, into the darkness and we really won't be able to see whatever we do. So I kind of do want to have the wall roughly there, which means that if we have that as the second track, which will be totally different colours, so don't worry about that, then really where this track is, we need a central platform which will serve both the haunted track and our normal track. And we need to have this one kind of here. Well, let's grab another bit of track, kind of there. And then we've got space for an incredibly thin platform, which kind of be like a facade where a guillotine has come down on the near side this time and kind of chopped it off. So it'll kind of be a dot, dot, dot towards us that does hint at, further platform space there. I mean, really, you could just have a central platform and have this right on the edge, but I think it'll look better with something here as well. So I'll probably do that. So that means quite a few changes, really. The first and probably most important one to keep this train system functioning is to have this track further out, which means I'm probably going to actually replace the entire bend that's under here made out of flex track with normal track corners. And that will actually mean that the whole thing pops out a little bit, well, on the edge of the table, pretty much exactly where we need it, which we couldn't do on the old station because we needed to accommodate that really wide platform. But that'll be fine now. So that'll liberate loads of flex track. And then probably the easiest way of getting from a track that's about there to one about there is not a points. It's probably using some of that flex track again, but I can do that. That's no problem. And it'll get us back to where we need to be. So I need to really stretch now underneath all these tables to get out what I did before and put the new plan into action. All right, so going back underground, here is the moved train line. You can see now it's much nearer the edge of that table. And I've relinked it up, so we've got a little bit of flex track there. And those round tiles are just to ensure that it doesn't ever come undone. And that's just because from past experience, trying to stick my hand underneath these tables can be very tricky at times, especially once I've built, a subway station right up to the end of this and it's inaccessible. Well, not inaccessible, but relatively speaking. So it's better to be belt and braces, safe rather than sorry, and have all of them secured very firmly. So let's now test this. Turn back on the subway train and give it some power. And we can follow it. I've been asked for train subway cam before. You can kind of see it vanishing there into that station. Oh, it's already come around the corner and is zooming its way back along the back straight in amongst all the drinks cans. Now you won't be able to see those drinks cans when it is up and running, because we'll have totally boxed the area that we're interested in. But looking good. There we are. And then it'll do the little flex track piece. Yeah, it handles that with no problem at all, doesn't it? So we're really happy with that, I think. It does everything we want. We'll wait for it to get back in station before we actually give it a stop. Now, that one could do with a horn, really, couldn't it? I'll just turn that off. So that means that we are now left with this as our setup. So we've got a very narrow area here, but I reckon that will be enough for a 4 wide platform. It doesn't matter if it overhangs the edge of the table just a little bit. Any less than that, and it's not going to be worth doing, quite frankly. There in the middle, I think we want to ideally get an 8 wide platform, so that's going to have to be like that. We could do a 6, but I want to have lots of ghosts on here, so you know, the narrower we make it, the less good it will be. So I think 8 wide. Then we've got the ghost train track, which will ping between the 2 green tiled areas, so that means the back wall will be there. And I think that is about right. It's about, what's that, 3 inches, 10 centimetres, sort of further back than the edge of the table above. And I don't think that's too much for it to get too dark that we won't see any of that back wall, but it's probably dark enough to give it a bit of mystery. Yeah, I think that's about right balance. So that is going to be the structure of our subway station. The left and right boundaries pretty much are obvious in that one's going to go right up to the edge of this table, and on the other side going to go right up to the edge of that table. So it actually will be a bit narrower width-wise than the other one. So what I'm going to do to make that less of an issue, because we do want to be able to see this train pinging around as much as possible, is not have the whole escalator set up. I'm probably going to have kind of almost tunnel entrances for pedestrians to go off the platforms, I think, much like the tunnel entrances for all the trains. And then we can sort of imagine that they go through a bit of a network before they sort of pop up at one of the, gilded, not gilded, verdigris sort of coloured sand green entrances. So I think they'll go really well. I do hope you like this sort of video as well, the planning. I certainly enjoy doing them. It's very important to sort of do all this testing and sort of mocking up at this stage so you can ensure that everything's going to fit, because otherwise you might end up getting quite a long way into a build before realising that what you've got planned just won't work. So I do think it's time well spent. So looking good. So I think you can now see the madness of my plan coming into effect. We've got the ghost train that's caged within this station, getting more and more angry, surrounded by ghosts, and the normal subway train deciding, possibly wisely, not to stop at this station because it looks a bit scary, and ploughing on through on its usual route. But I think it looks really good. I think it's going to work wonderfully well with a combination of the normal sort of subway station and this ghostly angle. The noise is, quite annoying, but do tell me what you think about my dastardly plans. So as always, thank you very much for watching. It is appreciated. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe for more awesome LEGO videos. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, we'll be doing a brick haul on Wednesday, because we still need bricks to actually finish this build. And then on Friday, we'll be doing the second part. And I just have to see if I've got all the parts for the station or all the parts for the train. I don't know, but either way, I think it will be rather brilliant. So do remember to tune in. See you then!